Hello, thank you for tuning into the Natural Health Rising podcast. My name is Rachel Smith. I am a certified functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, and I've helped hundreds of people naturally reverse symptoms of autoimmune diseases and other health challenges, from digestive issues to hormone imbalances. And in these weekly episodes, you're going to learn from myself and top health experts from around the world about functional medicine and holistic health tips to help you rise to your healthiest, happiest self. Welcome to today's episode with Dr. Prudence Hall, where we dive into all things women's hormones, such as how to test your sex hormones, what to do when fertility starts to decline, when are hysterectomies even necessary, and how to have an easier transition through perimenopause and menopause by using natural lifestyle changes and bioidentical hormones. Dr. Hall started as a traditional gynecological surgeon and transitioned her career to focus on regenerative and integrative medicine. As the founder of the Hall Center in Santa Monica, California, she saw a critical need to address the problems confronting women and men experiencing the stubborn and often debilitating symptoms associated with aging. Welcome to the show, Prudence.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks so
Happy
much
to
for,
be
thanks so much for being on the show. Um, I want to hear a little bit of your story to start off and what inspired you to shift from being in traditional gynecological surgery and then moving into regenerative and integrative medicine.
That's a good question. And it was a big shift. I trained as a traditional gynecologist, and that meant that I did a lot of surgical training because we had to learn how to do hysterectomies and all the various types of surgeries that women need. I had very little training with menopause. And when I came out of medicine, I didn't really have much success treating menopause. And I was shocked. It's like I had been trained in one of the best places, best residencies. And I felt that really the tools I had been given to treat such a comprehensive, I would say it's a shutdown of the body on multiple different systems. And I didn't know how to handle it. And right at that time, actually, around that time, there was talk about getting to the core root cause of problems. Jeff
Mhm.
Bland was just starting his work, talking about how the systems fit together and how everything is connected and how medicine it has to be unique to each person, individualizing to each person. These are the tenets of functional medicine and how our genes come into play in terms of treatment. So it's a new type of genomics, individualized, get to the core root cause type of medicine. And it changed the way I looked at menopause, and it changed the way I addressed all of my patients. So I've been doing functional medicine for at least 25 years.
Mm.
Um, maybe a little bit longer than that, really right when it started. And it just allowed me to look much deeper at a problem. For example, we now know that heart disease is multifactorial. It comes from stress, from certain types of small dense LDL particles, from lifestyle, from lack of exercise, from high sugars. And this was probably one of the first field that started to look at cardiology or to look at their field functionally. So it changed my life, and patients became so much happier when I started really addressing them as unique individuals with unique hormones and unique body types. And I always ask, are you sensitive? How do you do with different types of, like, coffee, for example? Because we're all very, very unique individual people.
Hmm. You said a word that made me think of a lot of clients that I've worked with, which is hysterectomies. What
Mm.
what are your what's your opinion on hysterectomies now that you've been doing this for 25 years?
Yeah. Well, I was always one of those residents who closely and carefully screened my women patients who were mainly poor and uneducated. And I was not going to do hysterectomies that were not absolutely merited. And, yes, it was a training institute, it was at USC, but still, I felt that the highest moral principles needed to be taken to those patients who didn't know anything about their body. So, there would be residents who would have 15 hysterectomies on the lineup, and I would have 3 or 4. Because how many
Mm.
hysterectomies do you have to do before you understand how to do them well? So I still take that, I just go through life like that. I mean, when women have a problem, for example, with a form of very, very bad fibroids, I always try to refer patients at this point because all I do now is hormones for the last, 20 years. But what I would do is, do a myomectomy if that's what they wanted. And there are really great advantages to removing the fibroids, leaving the uterus. Some conditions really merit a hysterectomy. And when those conditions would come up, you can't do an ablation, which is, treating the inside of the uterus to stop bleeding. You can't remove anything because the whole uterus is infected. And I'm talking about benign processes. There's a process called adenomyosis, and women just bleed and bleed and bleed. And
Mm.
most of the times they're saying, Prudence, isn't it time to do a hysterectomy? And it's like, yeah, you can have a laparoscopic hysterectomy. It's very quick. Your cervix can be left. And so when it's necessary, it's necessary. Most of the time, it's not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what about those times when it's not necessary? Because I
Oh,
I I think that a lot of people, I mean, those cases, those situations
mhm.
you just listed, it does sound like there is always a time and place for certain things, right? But for the larger population of women who maybe they just have like PMS problems and things
Oh,
that feel like, like there are some
yeah.
women out there who get hysterectomies. It's like, whoa, why did you get that?
Yeah.
But that is what they're taught that needs to be done in order to maybe relieve pain or something along those lines. Um, so what do you
Pain
have to
should be approached from functional medicine, by the way. Pain is very, very psychological and physical and, related to diet and all kinds of things. So, look, a hysterectomy would be a highly inappropriate way to treat menopause or PMS, most pain. Uh,
Mhm.
and, I just sit and talk. I talk about what their goals are. And listen, yesterday, I was talking to a patient and I had sent her to see one of the oncologists, really wonderful, wonderful man in Los Angeles, because she had an ovarian cyst, and it's standard to refer certain types of ovarian cyst to these oncologists to make sure it's not cancer. Well, he said, look, everything's fine. He did another ultrasound 3 months later. It was gone.
Mhm.
And that was the end of the story. She started going to another doctor who heard about her history, who followed it, and who recommended that she have her ovaries and tubes removed. And and I went into quite a discussion with her yesterday about saying, well, why don't you go back to Dr. Lee? Why don't you just see again what he says? Because there's no reason to remove your ovaries and tubes if there's no pathology,
Mhm.
if there's no suspected cancer, or I
Right.
mean, you aren't having pain, you aren't having a problem. Why was she suggesting they be removed? So
Yeah.
you question the doctor. And that's a hint. That's hint number one, or suggestion number one. Don't feel that your doctor knows your body. You know your body better than your doctor does. And it's actually our responsibility to guide the doctor, to let the doctor know what are our goals.
Mhm.
And it's something that doctors need to listen to. And I think more and more we're listening to our women patients, our clients. They're really clients. They don't have to be patient. They could be impatient.
Mhm.
And we're paid consultants. And if we don't listen, it's really quite shocking in my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that point got across that, like you said, with this person who had an ovarian cyst, well, as long as it wasn't cancerous and it went away, I work with people all the time where we get their ovarian cyst to go away with changing diet and lifestyle. And even myself, when I was younger and I was a teenager, I had terrible PMS, and I had an ovarian cyst that twisted and bled and burst, and it was a horrible experience. But once I started to change my life, my lifestyle, my diet, and work with functional medicine, every period is like you don't even know
Mhm.
it's coming. So I think it's important for women to hear that you don't have to necessarily go to very extreme ends in certain cases.
Yeah. Lifestyle is very important. When you think about fibroids and some of these conditions, uh, inflammation can be a core root cause of these things. So, an
Hmm.
anti-inflammatory diet and exercise that's smart exercise, good sleep, um, PMS, most of PMS is due to lower estrogen.
Mm.
And when you change your diet, and certain types of naturopathic herbs can really help to rebalance the hormones. And stress causes a lot of these hormonal imbalances. So getting
Hmm.
meditative practices or some gentle kind of exercise like yoga and Pilates and things that really help to realign the body. These are all, beautiful ways of intervening with the body. We don't need to come in and, slam it like that.
Right. You said anti-inflammatory diet a few times. What does that look like overall usually? And does that actually change based upon if somebody is maybe in their 30s or maybe they're in their 50s or 60s and they've gone through menopause?
Yeah. So I think diet is quite individualized towards each patient, but generally it's plant-based. And what that means is there's lots of plants in there, all kinds of colors, carrots and beets and different types of berries. The lowest glycemic berries would be things like raspberries, blueberries, strawberries. So you want low sugar, plant-based, and then the protein that you can add could be beans, which have about as much protein as meat, black beans, or you can add things like grass-fed, free range, 100% beef, or chicken that is organic and pasture raised. Eggs are great. I buy the eggs from the farmers market, one of the ones that's really where they're running around like crazy from Malibu. Um, and it's low sugar, it's low animal protein, very, I would say moderate in healthy fats. And those healthy fats are olive oil, avocado oil, a little bit of coconut oil, um, and fresh, a lot of raw stuff mixed with the
Hmm.
diet is really excellent.
Hmm.
Usually when people start pushing the raw, I start adding digestive enzymes because some people don't digest their raw food very much. And I'm not saying we can't have cooked food. Of course we can. But as you cook the food develops these things called advanced like glycation end products, which makes it a little bit less healthy. So having a certain amount of raw things like an apple, some berries, maybe a carrot, maybe celery juice. My friend Anthony Williams certainly with the medical medium certainly spread that to the masses. And by golly, women do really well with celery juice, and it's raw. So that kind of diet.
Hmm. Okay. Um, Now, if somebody is not eating this anti-inflammatory diet, they haven't adopted this different lifestyle yet, and let's say they're in their 30s, their 40s, and
Mhm.
perimenopause is starting or happening.
Oh yeah.
What should women be looking out for? Changes in their body, changes in symptoms. What does that look like?
So that's almost two different questions. I love that. I love compound questions. So the first thing is, what are the symptoms of perimenopause and what are we vigilant about? And indeed, perimenopause is starting, or menopause is starting 10 years earlier than it did when I started this almost 4 decades ago. And I would say that, having more PMS is one of the first symptoms. The menstrual cycles going from 28, 29, 30 days to 25, 26, 24 days.
Hmm.
Those are both symptoms. Also feeling more irritable during during the whole month, feeling more tired, gaining weight. Sometimes it's only 5 or 10 pounds. Sometimes it's a few, 6 or 7, but gaining some weight, feeling less optimal, maybe less confident, less sexual. So those are, pretty basic, hot night flat and feeling hot at night. Sometimes that's a symptom. That can come quite a bit later, though. Missing periods can come quite a bit later. But those are sort of the beginning symptoms. So look for that. And if you feel that, and if you're consistently feeling that over 2 or 3 cycles, it's not just something out there. It's not something out there. It's something inside. And you get your hormones checked. And the best time to check your hormone is around day 2 or 3. The second time to check it would be, about a week before the period. And you can really, I really think that we want to stay on top of our fertility. So some women will start to lose their fertility at 38, 39, 40. I don't want to scare your audience because I have tons of women who have babies at 43, 44, 45. But, this is when fertility is a little bit less, maybe a little bit less eager to present itself. Maybe it takes longer cycles or maybe there's more miscarriage. For example, when I was trying to have my third child at age 40, I miscarried twice. That would be very, very
Mm.
typical. And I had my third baby and was very happy, but I started around 34, 35 to have my children. So we want to prioritize that. If fertility is a goal, we want to certainly stay very present with what our goals are and to try to either bank our eggs, save them if we aren't in a relationship, or to really have serious discussions about when might we want to have children. Now, the
Mhm.
second thing is if these things start to happen, this is a great time to change the diet and change one's lifestyle. Sleep 8 or 9 hours. Now, a hint as to how to sleep is magnesium glycinate is wonderful to take at night. I take 3 to 4 capsules each night, which is about 400 to 500 milligrams each night, and it really induces sleep. And patients, of course, really feel the same. I mean, it's almost universal. And the second thing is melatonin. Melatonin is an anti-inflammatory supplement, and it's anti-inflammatory, and it's an antioxidant, meaning it helps when a nail rusts outside and becomes all kind of corroded, the body does the same thing. So it's an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. I usually start my patients on 5 milligrams a day. Now I have this thing called Sweet Sleep. It's a wonderful sleep supplement. I put in GABA, 500 milligrams. I put in 500 HTP, 100 milligrams. So these are wonderful sleepers. Melatonin to start with, then add GABA, 500 to 750 milligrams, then add 5-HTP, and get your 8 or 9 hours. 6 to 7 hours isn't enough. It's not going to support your hormones. It's not going to support you as a vital, healthy, uh, full of life person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So many questions from everything you just said. So I want to go back to the part about checking hormones. I cannot tell you how many times I have had a client come to me and they said, yeah, they checked my hormones. They did my blood work. I said, okay, what day did you do the test on? Oh, I
Yeah.
don't know. They didn't tell me anything about doing it on a specific day. So, maybe they didn't go to a special hormone doctor or something. They just went to their general practitioner. I'm not sure where the miscommunication happened, but this happens. I've seen it a lot of times. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about like, is it always blood testing? We also have Dutch testing in functional
Mhm. Mhm.
medicine. What do you like to use? What's the best option?
Yeah.
And a little bit more details on like the specifics on how women should get that done.
Right. So I just want to respond to the fact that doctors don't always know a lot about hormones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hormones run our body. They're our operating system. For example, they beat our heart. They create all the vast network of connections in our brain. They help to prevent heart disease. Why does heart disease in menopause catch up to men's, which is quite high, the number one cause of death in women? Because we lose
Mm-hmm.
our hormones. So
Mm-hmm.
hormones are extremely important. And I think that every doctor should know how to measure them, when to have the hormones checked, and when to refer to somebody who actually knows, maybe how to correct that if they don't know how to correct that. So once again, the client, the woman, needs to help guide the doctor. And I would say that for most people, checking the hormones on around the second day of the menstrual cycle. Day one is your first day of bleeding. Day two is the best time to check the hormones. And I use the Dutch test and the Meridian Valley test, which is a urine test, extensively. But I do that once I know what the blood is. And once I've started hormone therapy with women to see how are you breaking your hormones down. So what I do is I start with a follicle stimulating hormone and an estradiol. And those are the two most basic tests to check. The FSH is a pituitary hormone that regulates the ovary. So when we start to go into perimenopause on day two, that follicle stimulating hormone will be subtly high. So ideal is 3 to 5. It might be 6. It might be 7. And then the tip off is that, the brain is calling and asking for a little more estrogen, and the estradiol level is low. On day two, the estradiol should probably be about, I would say maybe 60, 70, maybe even 80 on day two. So what happens in the menstrual cycle is we start with a low estrogen. That would be the first day of the cycle. And we slowly rise to ovulation, which depending on how long the menstrual cycle is usually around day 12 to 14. That's the most fertile time for us. So that's the time to try to get pregnant. And there are ovulation predictors that'll tell you when you can get pregnant. You just buy them in the pharmacy. And the hormone levels at that point are 300 to 500. So that's why I like to check it when the estrogen is low, so I can really see what the brain is doing. Is the brain calling out for estrogen? And then what I do is I correlate that with the symptoms that a woman is having. So if she has a slightly high FSH and it's on day 2 of her cycle, and let's say that she's 38, I will check then something called an anti-Müllerian hormone to see how much eggs she has left. Let's say her goal is to have a child at 42. And I say, well, it's looking like you have a great amount of eggs. Why don't you try to do in the next couple of years if you can, or else bank your eggs. But, you do have a good amount of eggs left. So we can check that. We don't have to sit there and worry, am I going to be able to have a child or not? I also, when I check hormones, Rachel, I actually check 15 to 18 different hormones. I check the thyroid. The ovary also makes testosterone, which women really can need. Testosterone gives you confidence and strength and muscle mass, and it runs our sex drive, which I think is very important for women. So I also check the adrenals. Young women have adrenal burnout. That's due to stress just as much as older women. And I find it even more burned out or more advanced in young women. And so I always check women's adrenals. And I check 3 hormones when I check blood: DHEAS, dihydroepiandrosterone sulfate, pregnenolone, and cortisol. Now, these are the hormones that give you drive, and it gives you muscle building and confidence and your sex drive, and it gives you a lot of energy. So when women come in and they're tired and depleted, I always check that on all my new patients. And the thyroid, young women as well as older women have thyroid deficiencies. I have one. You have I don't know if you have one or not.
Hashimoto's. Yeah. That's
Oh,
that
you
was
have Hashimoto's, Rachel.
what
Oh
got me
my goodness.
started into all of this. Was I was actually in my late teens, was terribly sick, terribly sick. And I had heart palpitations, which was like, that can be a symptom
Sure.
of this.
Absolutely.
You're gonna freak out at this if you haven't heard this story. They did an exploratory heart surgery on me because of the heart palpitations before ever looking at looking at a
Oh
full thyroid panel,
my.
anything like that.
Oh,
And
Rachel.
yeah, I went through years of seeing so many doctors. And then that was the last
Oh,
thing that I said, this is crazy. That was traumatic. That was
oh, Rachel.
horrible. I need to go look into functional medicine. And literally the first person I found who was a functional medicine practitioner was able to say, oh my gosh, you have really bad Hashimoto's. Like, it's very
Oh,
bad, especially for your
Rachel.
age. Yeah. And so I was super inspired
Yeah.
by that and just changing my lifestyle and seeing everything shift that I went back to school to study this stuff as well. So yes, I have a thyroid issue.
This is a travesty in medicine. This
Yeah.
is, I mean, I always check the antibodies when I'm checking the thyroid. I check the
Hmm.
TSH, the free T3, thyroid 3, the free thyroid 4, reverse T3 to see if somehow the thyroid is being bound up, and always the
Hmm.
antibodies. Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition, as I'm sure your people know, and it can affect anyone at any age. Gluten seems to be quite an offending
Yeah.
uh, you know, food. And, you definitely want to go on an anti-inflammatory food and do, to treat this as a standard autoimmune disease. I am so sorry that happened to you. I mean, look, you hand a surgeon a knife, they want to use it.
Yeah.
I mean, they feel like that's the solution. I'm not
Hmm.
saying that they're immoral, but I'm saying that, functional medicine has given doctors so many more tools aside from the traditional tools that they have.
Hmm.
So, that knife is last resort. Well, Rachel, it has given you your great gift in life and your purpose in life. And
Yes,
I
exactly.
just that story is going to help so many people to
Hmm.
avoid and to go down the right path to find, the right solutions.
Hmm. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Um, I want to talk a little bit about bioidentical hormones because that's like your jam, right? You said you've been using those mostly and focusing on that mostly. At what point is that appropriate for a woman to start, in your opinion?
Okay. So I've been using bioidentical hormones for the last 3.5 to 4 decades. And they started using them in Germany and in France, where I was living off and on because I was married to a Frenchman. And I started learning about them then. And I was actually starting even to study different aspects of gynecology in France at that time. So non-bioidentical hormones should not be used in any circumstance, just ever. I was taught with Premarin, which is the pregnant horse's urine, that is not the same exact hormone that we make as women. So bioidentical just means that it's the same hormone that we're making. And it has been identified. We know the different hormones. They're made in manufacturing pharmaceutical companies, and then they're put into lots of different mediums. And I think that if women start to have a decrease in their estrogen, their testosterone, their thyroid, whatever, their adrenals, whatever starts to decline, then the solution, aside from lifestyle and emotional work and, I mean, we're not just a physical body, we're a
Hmm.
spiritual body, we're an emotional body, we're a biological set of connections and organisms. So we want to look on all levels when we investigate things. But I use bioidentical hormones, the estrogen, to treat PMS. So when women come in and they have severe PMS, and
Hmm.
I think your audience might know PMS, but it's depression, rage, irritability, weight gain, extreme hunger, bloating,
Hmm.
menstrual cramps, heavy flow where you just are just overwhelmed by blood loss, which is a sign of low thyroid, by the way. Okay, that's
Hmm.
really important. If you have profuse periods, it probably, or there's a good chance it could be a subtle thyroid problem. Then, I give estradiol, creams that look like this, or the lowest patch that sometimes I have women cut in half, which is a bioidentical medium two, for 3 or 4 days before the cycle, and women's lives can change. Um, Postpartum depression, uh, I'm very vigilant for that because women can have a terrible time postpartum and just, it's so easy to treat. Usually it's a thyroid abnormality. Women need emotional support and sometimes some trauma work around that time because childbirth really hurts and can bring up, past trauma
Hmm.
and estrogen, and we can get rid of most postpartum depression.
Hmm.
I go to antidepressants, at the very last resort, and then refer to somebody who's a specialist in that.
Hmm.
Most depression, I don't want to say most depression, but I would say overwhelmingly depression comes from hormones, from lifestyle, which of course is diet and exercise and
Mm-hmm.
stress. And so I use bioidentical hormones. I mean, that's in my toolkit,
Mm-hmm.
along with helping women with their connection to other people and helping them to
Mm-hmm.
manage their emotions. I refer to trauma healers. I have several ones that are just fantastic in terms of helping navigate some of the tremendous trauma that we as humans experience in life. You don't want to leave that uncovered. You want to kind of work right through that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about that emotional piece? Because I think with there are emotional things that come up in perimenopause, and as your body's changing in
Oh.
menopause, as you mentioned with childbirth, like there are these big things that are happening in our lives, and that can create some emotional turmoil as well. So, what
Mhm.
advice do you have for women to help maintain their emotional and mental well-being during those times?
Oh, that is such a good question. And there are many tools to approach this. The first thing is to try to understand what is the cause. And when women say, I just don't know, I have no idea why I'm crying and despondent and wanting to break up with my boyfriend or husband, put him out with the trash, for the week before my period. Okay, that's going to be hormonal. And when I check that, it's hormonal. It's generally
Hmm.
hormonal and can be corrected with a hormonal situation. But a lot of life, we're emotional beings, we're spiritual beings, we're energetic beings, and not to address the connection we have to ourselves and to our community, and not to address, are we receiving love and giving love? Are we are we lonely? Are we
Hmm.
isolated? And this happens, oh, it was just to the nth degree during COVID. Women, oh my God, I was working 10 hours a day during COVID because women were despondent and breaking up with their partner of many, many years or walking out of the house. And it was very scary. So trauma work, if we can identify some trauma, really helps. And
Hmm.
you've had the trauma with the surgery and all of that. My God, that's quite extensive trauma, but also 1 out of 3 women are abused somehow sexually. So going into that to see if that kind of abuse has taken place, that can be
Hmm.
healed. And so trauma work, uh, I would say acknowledging what's happening, acknowledging our emotions. So when I ask women how they're doing, they feel pretty free to say, it's been really a tough 3 months and I'm feeling despondent. And so then we go and we have a number of tools. There's meditation.
Hmm.
There's, of course, when they're despondent like that, I'm always rebalancing their hormones too to see if something is just a little bit subtly off. And um, I would say this is the time for loving understanding. Hormones are the molecules of emotions. I
Hmm.
mean, when your hormones are low, you're going to feel angry, irritable, sad. You're going to not feel yourself. You're going to feel disconnected. I think purpose work is good, not to drive you
Hmm.
crazy saying, am I living my purpose or not? But to just really, as Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. He's a wonderful, if your readers or your listeners don't know him yet, Joseph Campbell has done some great stuff. He has a Netflix, I think a 6 series um, kind of really beautiful piece of work about your life purpose and a hero's journey. And so I've
Hmm.
done a lot of that kind of work and I help my patients to do it too, because once menopause is kind of completely reversed and women say, well, now what am I going to do? I have another 40 years of my life. And it's like women can get very depressed when
Hmm.
not because of hormones, but because they don't know how to live their life in a way that's going to bring them joy and bliss. So it's a conversation, and there are lots of people who really know how to help women with this. I love going to retreats. I love my clients to be lifelong learners. I resource them all the time to people that I love or people that they might love, good books,
Hmm.
good people to help them. I see a Jungian analyst once a week. He's my mystic. He's a
Mm-hmm.
mystic, and I run things by him, and he's like a North Star for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've already done, I did 2 years of trauma work, so there's nothing like that. But I like women to have resources where they really love the person they're working with and they
Mm-hmm.
trust them and they can accept guidance because, we're pretty stubborn as women. We should be. But, really, when you find somebody who's a good therapist or a good trauma healer or really even a good friend, where you explore what's my life purpose and how am I going to go forward little by little to create a new life for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Menopause is like the phoenix, so we're left in ashes many times, but then what comes out of it is yummy and exciting and full of life.
I love all of that, and I totally agree. I'm very similar, doing retreats and reading books and therapists, all the things, all the tools. I love it. Um, I think it's super valuable for any kind of health issues as well as hormonal imbalances. So I want to get to the after menopause piece eventually, but as
Mm.
women are going through menopause, are there some other things outside of like diet, lifestyle changes? Are there any herbs that you recommend that people use? Are there other holistic approaches when it comes to managing those menopausal symptoms?
Yes, my daughter is a naturopathic doctor. She's in my
Okay.
practice, and she actually has taught me a lot about herbs over the years. And Vitanica is a brand that she likes very much and I've grown to like. And pregnancy prep is great to use when women have abnormal cycles. Let's say they're in their late 30s and their cycles are becoming shorter. Pregnancy prep is great for that.
Hmm.
Um, there is shatavari, which is an Indian herb that is very helpful for energy and rebalancing hormones.
Hmm.
Um, Remifemin is the classic herb that helps. That's the brand name, but it really does help to decrease hot flashes. When you go online and look at Amazon, I think there's a product called Hot Flash. There's a product, Remifemin. These are products that have a variety of herbs in them that can help with hot flashes. And the melatonin and the magnesium and GABA and 5-HTP definitely can help women to sleep because sleeplessness is a major symptom of menopause. So it depends on what women's desires are, how I
Hmm.
approach them. So some women say, I'm natural. I would never take hormones. Now, I
Hmm.
have a discussion. It's like, well, gee, your hormones are natural. I mean, there's nothing, you want your hair to grow and your skin to be dewy and beautiful and youthful. So, that's the job of hormones, plus beating your heart and maintaining every body system you have. So I would say that the discussion that I have is women say, well, why not do it naturally? Like, the body's meant to go through menopause. And
Hmm.
it's like, yeah, it is. But once you go into menopause, you stay in menopause for the next 30 to 50 years, just like this, like you're feeling. Is
Hmm.
that what you want to do? Because
Hmm.
if you don't address menopause, the next 30 to 50 years of your life will be very, very different than if you do address menopause. And, we have a lot of knowledge as to how to age well and
Hmm.
treating menopause in I would say, a holistic manner, in a natural manner by replacing the hormones that are missing with exactly the same hormones. I would say that's pretty natural in terms of addressing it. So it's like, yeah, let's say you're having a heart attack and they say, well, we can take you to the cath lab. We're going to rush you up there. They're, door to needle time. You want it to be very, very quick, a few minutes. So they're rushing you and you say, wait, I want to do this naturally. And it's like, okay, change your diet, change your exercise. Let's start getting sleep. Let's, okay,
Uh-huh.
can we go on to the cath lab first? And, you know, so we know so much about aging well, about staying healthy, about preventing diseases and decline. And
Hmm.
hormones are just one of the tools that are in the toolbox for that. And
Hmm.
it's an important tool. So, did I answer your question? I probably went on a tangent here.
No, that was great. That was great. I love the analogy of the cath lab. Um, so you keep talking about the phoenix, right? So after menopause, what are women expecting their life to be like?
So if you just allow your body to age as it does without any kind of intervention, there's no end of menopause. So I'm just saying that again
Okay.
because women tell me all the time, "Oh, I'm 60, I'm through that." It's like, I'm looking at your hormones and you're in the middle of menopause. Everything is declining. It's completely declined, and you're developing heart disease, diabetes, and it sounds like your brain is really struggling because estrogen is so important for the female brain.
Mhm.
Um, so let's just say though that someone comes to me at 48 and I'm able to, rebalance their hormones. And that would mean giving them a variety of natural hormones, and the symptoms disappear and the aging is reversed. So hormones turn back the clock of aging. So let's say that their sugar is very high. And Rachel, I
Mhm.
measure the hemoglobin A1C. So a lot of my perimenopause and menopausal patients are pre-diabetic or diabetic. So when that's been reversed by hormones and lifestyle, and their cholesterol is back to a healthy level without using Lipitor, which I think is a rather dangerous intervention for high cholesterol, and without pharmaceuticals, using natural bioidentical hormones and lifestyle, then the phoenix starts to rise,
Mhm.
because at that point we feel grounded and happy. We have the energy to actually live a different kind of life than we were living before.
Mhm.
And at that point, I have women who decided that they're going to write a book. And the book became bestsellers and they helped so many people. And from there, they started becoming a teacher of, kind of helping other people with the problems that they went through. I have women who became mountain climbers and who climbed 7 peaks. uh, one opened in orphanages, several started homeschools and started schools for children in countries where girls are not educated. And this came out of actually having a second phase of their life. If you
Mm.
stay in menopause, so many women, Rachel, are just depleted and they're exhausted and they're depressed, and they end up on antidepressants and then a hypertensive medication and then Lipitor, which kills your mitochondria and actually is very damaging to the body. And so they're handling it with a pharmaceutical solution.
Mhm.
It's very different though if you handle it with a natural integrative medicine kind of solution, because then you have this new self, and then you start to get to know yourself. You really go on the journey of self-knowledge. Who am I? What makes me happy? And
Mhm.
just one thing I would say with all of these years of working, being in service, helping others, it is really the foundation for creating personal joy. It is so, look what you're doing. Isn't it rewarding? Isn't it wonderful?
Yeah, I love it. It keeps me going every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it could be on one-to-one, just where somebody reaches out to you, you stop your day and you really give them, or you find a time that you can really give them your undivided attention. Even that, I mean, it changes people's lives. It
Mhm.
reconnects them to who they are. So we all have our gifts. Some people paint their creations for other people and give back that way in a very creative way. Other people join organizations that are, I mean, I have two women that are my clients who are helping to really impact the child sex trade, which is
Mm.
alive and thriving all over the world, less so in the United States, but all over the world, terrible stuff. And this is a very strong purpose for them.
Mhm.
And and it usually comes from within, that
Mhm.
desire to give back, to help other people because we've been helped, becoming a mentor to other people.
Mhm.
And life is just full of wonderful things to explore and learn.
Mhm.
And it could be just starting to, I mean, Joe Dispenza. I've been to his retreats. I love the man. Check
Mhm.
him out, Joe Dispenza. I mean, you can create your life and bring. I have a patient who 40 years old and she didn't have a mate and she kept on wanting a mate. Well, when was the last time you dated? 10 years ago. She went to Joe Dispenza, his week-long program, and she came out. She was at Trader Joe's. She saw a man across the aisle that looked like it might be her man. She went up to him. They're married. They're happy. Joe Dispenza. So creating your life from a place of, kind of a spiritual awareness and knowing who you are, knowing what you want to create. And that takes a bit of work there, Rachel. It takes a bit of work to be able to unravel that.
It does. When women take bioidentical hormones, does this alleviate the risk of osteoporosis?
Number one treatment. It's the best gold standard treatment for osteoporosis. And I don't use these other kinds of medication, Fosamax. They make weaker bones. It kind of is annoying when we have such a great treatment that is a natural replacement of a hormone that we're missing. Why would we go and use a pharmaceutical? I mean, why would we go and do that and create less, dentists are saying they can't do implants when people have replaced bone with these other agents. So yes, number one, I mean, I'm actually allowed with the gynecological board to say there are only two reasons why women should be on bioidentical hormones. Number one, to replace bones. Oh, what are those balloons? Oh, I went like that. Oh, to replace bones. That's I'm allowed to say that, and I'm also allowed to say it alleviates symptoms. Well, I say a lot more than that. It helps to prevent heart disease and to lower your small, dense LDL particles and to prevent dementia. Dale Bredesen's work, a genius in the field, the end of Alzheimer's disease. That's one of his books. And it decreases inflammation and it helps to prevent diabetes and all the autoimmune diseases. And I mean, don't get me going. But yes, it's what you said is true. Gold standard for bone growth. And women rebuild their bones all the time. I mean, I had a patient 3 days ago who said, yeah, I regained my full bone function. Well,
Right.
she's doing some weights and exercise. She's on estrogen, and within 2 years, her bones are now completely normal. Standard. I see this all the time.
Amazing.
I know, it's wonderful, Rachel.
I think this is a good place to wrap up. I want to do a very quick speed round, just a few questions. First thing that comes to your mind when I ask. Okay. What is one of your favorite or most impactful books that you've read?
Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda.
Okay. What do you enjoy doing daily or weekly for stress management?
I sleep 9 hours every night.
What's one supplement you
I exercise.
What's one supplement you couldn't live without?
Not counting the hormones, because I'm on all the hormones. I'm 73 years old. I'm on all the hormones. So not counting the hormones?
Not counting the hormones.
Wow. NAC is an important hormone, but I cannot say that that's I'm not a hormone, a supplement. I cannot say that that's my favorite supplement. More and more people are talking about niacin. I've used niacin for years as a way to help build NAD, which is very important. So I can't do without probably eight supplements every morning. Sorry, that's not a fast answer.
No, that's okay. So it sounds like niacin is in there and NAC.
Yeah, niacin's in there. NAC. I'm on NMN. I'm on a lot of different supplements. Vitamin C. I mean, magnesium. Okay, I'm going to say magnesium is my favorite supplement. Malate in the morning, glycinate at night. That's my number one favorite.
Perfect.
And melatonin. Magnesium.
Okay. And if you could leave the listeners with one tip for them to implement this week to help them live a healthier, happier life, what would that be?
Okay. 60% of the time, blood work will diagnose a thyroid problem. 40% of the time, it doesn't. So I would say optimizing your thyroid at any age is one of the best, most important things you can do. And to do that, iodine, you can get Crow's Lugol online. It's drops, 3 drops, 2 drops, 4 drops, very important. Selenium, 200 micrograms. Now that's 4 Brazil nuts, 3 or 4 Brazil nuts. So you do some drops of iodine, you do 4 Brazil nuts. It's gonna, even if your thyroid is just very subtly low, which it frequently is, and it's never diagnosed, this is going to make you feel happy and energetic. And when I balance people's thyroids, I get them off of their antidepressant all the time. So iodine and selenium are very, very important in terms of thyroid health, which is so often undiagnosed.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Do you want to share where people can find you and learn more, maybe work with you as well?
Great, Rachel, I'd love to. So my website is Dr. Prudence Hall, Prudence Hall, and I have a free book for you. If you put your email into the website, and there are, various places where you can do that, then the book downloads to your email. And I wrote a book called Radiant Again and Forever. It's free. And it talks all about Suzanne Summers told me to write it. I love Suzanne. She's she put me into so many of her books and has been such a beautiful, I would say living example of a radiant person. So her passage was really extremely sad for me and for so many people, but I would say that Radiant Again, and she said, Prudence, write a different chapter on each hormone. And so my first chapter is menopause, and it's a real patient that I helped with menopause. And at the end, I list everything that I did for her. And then there's PMS, and then there's low thyroid, and then there's adrenal burnout. Then there's a lot of stuff about sexuality, a lot of stuff about hormones and breast health. I mean, one of the wonderful books that's just a tip for your readers, or I keep saying readers, I love to read, your listeners and my listeners, is Estrogen Matters by Avram Blooming, because so many women are afraid it's going to cause cancer. It's like, it doesn't cause cancer. So that's a wonderful book for them to read. But my book's free, and I'm here to educate and here to be in service to my clients. I'm starting women's groups where I have 15 women online where I can rebalance their hormones, talk to them every week, educate them. And, that might be a possibility for some of your listeners. But I really have enjoyed this, Rachel.
Thank you so much. Me too.
You're just really wonderful what you're doing. Just wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you as well. It was amazing having you on. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like this video and comment, letting me know what you enjoyed and what you want to see more of. Also, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you get alerts when new content is coming out and you don't miss any videos. And just a quick reminder that this information is for educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any illness or medical condition. Please consult with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, exercise routine, supplements, or medical treatment. If you're looking for a functional medicine practitioner, please reach out to me. And thank you again for watching, and keep striving to become your healthiest, happiest self.